A massive project, a massive raid, and now a massive diplomatic headache. That's the story unfolding in rural Georgia, where construction of a multi-billion-dollar electric vehicle battery plant has screeched to a halt. The Korean companies behind the project admit they bent U.S. visa rules for their specialized workers, but insist America's slow, capped immigration system left them no real alternative. The crisis erupted on Thursday, September 4th, when hundreds of federal and state officers swarmed the future Hyundai LG battery site in Elabel, Georgia. Authorities called it the largest single-site worksite raid in the history of Homeland Security's enforcement arm. By day end, 475 workers were in custody. More than 300 were South Korean nationals. Investigators said some had entered illegally, others had overstayed, and many were violating the terms of the visas they held. ICE released photos of handcuffed workers being led onto buses, images that flashed across South Korean media and ignited public outrage. Industry insiders say the raid exposed an open secret. Building advanced plants for semiconductors or EV batteries requires highly specialized engineers who install, calibrate, and inspect complex equipment. These tasks are short-term but critical, and the clock on billion-dollar construction sites moves fast. The main visa for such expertise, the H-1B, is capped at $85,000 a year worldwide, with only a slice, about $2,000, typically going to South Koreans. Approvals can take months, far longer than project timelines allow. To keep schedules on track, companies often fly experts in on short-term business visas or the ESTA waiver, which technically ban paid employment. A senior South Korean official calls it an impossible position. Washington urges foreign investment, yet offers no rapid legal path for the temporary talent needed to deliver it. Back in Seoul, the images of shackled workers landed like an insult. South Korea had just pledged massive investments in the United States, and now hundreds of its citizens were in detention. President Lee Jae-myung ordered an all-out response. In an uncommon deal with Washington, Seoul arranged voluntary departure for its nationals and began chartering flights to bring them home, an option immigration lawyers say is rarely granted. Many in South Korea view the raid as political theater aimed at energizing President Trump's America First base. A local Republican congressional candidate even claimed credit for alerting authorities. Trump defended the operation, labeling the detainees illegal aliens, yet also conceded U.S. workers still need foreign experts for training, a contradiction that highlights the tension between courting investment and enforcing hard-line immigration policies. For now, construction in Georgia is frozen, and Korean giants like Hyundai and LG have suspended U.S. business trips. Both governments are scrambling for a fix. Seoul's foreign minister, Cho Hyun, has flown to Washington not only to secure the workers' return, but also to press for a long-term visa solution, possibly a new category tied to major foreign investments. Whether those engineers will be cleared to re-enter and finish their work remains unclear. The episode lays bare a collision of global economics, domestic politics, and human lives. As the United States seeks to onshore high-tech manufacturing, it must decide whether its immigration rules can keep pace with the speed of modern industry, or risk more halted projects, strained alliances, and headlines no one wants to see again. In Nepal, a digital blackout has ignited a youth-led uprising that is shaking the government to its core. This is the story of the Gen Z protests, an explosive reaction to a sweeping social media ban that has already left at least 19 people dead. It began on September 4, 2025. With no prior warning, the government blocked 26 major platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, WhatsApp, and more. Officials said the companies had refused to register locally and appoint in-country representatives, steps they claimed were needed to curb cybercrime, misinformation, and indecent material. TikTok and Viber, which complied, stayed online. For Nepal's young people, the cutoff felt less like regulation and more like a gag order. Almost immediately, students in school uniforms crowded the streets of Kathmandu and other cities, rallying under banners from groups such as Hami Nepal. What started as a demand for online freedom quickly morphed into a broader movement. Years of frustration fueled the fire. Protesters' chants evolved from "Give back our internet" to "Stop corruption, not social media." Even before the ban, hashtags like #NepoBabies and #NepoKids had highlighted what Gen Z sees as endemic nepotism among aging politicians. With high unemployment and many graduates forced to seek work abroad, the shutdown was viewed as the final insult from leaders who, in their eyes, have already mortgaged the country's future. The first rallies were peaceful. Then barricades went up around Parliament, tear gas canisters arced through the air, and the standoff turned deadly. Police used water cannons, rubber bullets, and, according to eyewitnesses, live ammunition. Hospitals overflowed with the wounded. Morgues began to fill. By week's end, the death toll had reached 19, with hundreds injured on both sides. International condemnation was swift. The United Nations called for an independent investigation, while Amnesty International denounced the unlawful use of lethal force. Under mounting pressure, Home Minister Ramesh Laikak resigned, accepting moral responsibility for the crackdown. Curfews now blanket several cities, and troops patrol parts of the capital. Two stark narratives now compete for Nepal's future. Protesters say they are fighting for fundamental rights, free expression, economic opportunity, and a government that serves citizens rather than silencing them. The blackout has also strangled small businesses and content creators who rely on social networks, and has cut off migrant workers from their families back home. The government insists the ban is about sovereignty and public safety, not censorship. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli has vowed he would rather resign than lift it, arguing that powerful tech giants must obey Nepali law no matter the economic fallout. What began as a protest over a Wi-Fi icon has exposed deep generational and political fault lines. Curfews may quiet the streets for now, but the anger driving Nepal's Gen Z remains raw and unresolved. The coming weeks will test whether the country's leaders can bridge that divide, or whether a blackout meant to control the narrative ends up rewriting Nepal's history instead. A legal storm is brewing between New York and Texas, potentially reshaping abortion access across the country. New York Attorney General Letitia James has intervened in a landmark legal battle concerning whether a doctor in her state can be penalized for mailing abortion pills to a patient in Texas, where abortion is almost entirely banned. This case pits the laws of one state directly against another and is widely expected to end up before the Supreme Court. At the heart of this conflict is a clash of state laws and deeply held beliefs. In one corner, Texas enforces one of the strictest abortion bans in the nation. In the other, New York positions itself as a safe haven for abortion access. The central question is simple yet profound. Can a state that bans abortion reach across its borders to enforce its laws in a state where abortion is legal? The story begins with a New York doctor, Margaret Daly Carpenter. In December 2024, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit against Dr. Carpenter, alleging she prescribed and mailed abortion pills to a woman in Texas, thereby violating Texas's near-total ban on abortion. When Dr. Carpenter did not appear in the Texas court, a judge ordered her to pay over $100,000 in penalties and fees. Enforcing that fine, however, took an unexpected turn. When Texas authorities sought to have the court order recognized in New York, they were met with firm resistance. Acting Ulster County Clerk Taylor Bruck cited New York's Shield Law to deny the request. This law prohibits state officials from assisting other states in enforcing their abortion bans, including refusing to enforce out-of-state court orders and fines related to abortion care that is legal in New York. Consequently, when Texas attempted to enforce its judgment against Dr. Carpenter, the New York clerk, adhering to the state's Shield Law, refused. This refusal escalated the legal battle. In response, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton took the unusual step of suing the New York court clerk Taylor Bruck directly. This move elevated the conflict from a case against an individual doctor to a direct legal challenge between the two states. New York Attorney General Letitia James has formally announced her intervention in the lawsuit to defend the clerk and the constitutionality of New York's Shield Law. In a statement, James said, "New York's Shield Law was created to protect patients and providers from out-of-state anti-choice attacks, and we will not allow anyone to undermine healthcare providers' ability to deliver necessary care to their patients." This legal showdown unfolds in a nation deeply divided over abortion rights, especially since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. In the wake of that decision, mailing abortion pills from states with shield laws has become a critical means for individuals in states with bans to access abortion. By the end of 2024, providers in states with these protective laws were mailing over 10,000 abortion pill prescriptions monthly into states with abortion bans or significant restrictions. This lawsuit is part of a broader strategy by anti-abortion activists and officials to halt this flow of medication. Texas, for instance, recently advanced a new law allowing private citizens to sue anyone suspected of manufacturing, transporting, or providing abortion pills to someone in the state. From Texas's perspective, officials argue they are upholding their state's pro-life laws and protecting unborn children. Attorney General Paxton has stated, "In Texas, we treasure the health and lives of mothers and babies, and this is why out-of-state doctors may not illegally and dangerously prescribe abortion-inducing drugs to Texas residents." They view New York's Shield Law as an unconstitutional attempt to undermine their authority. Conversely, New York asserts it is defending its own laws and the right of its residents to provide health care that is legal within its borders. They argue that Texas is overreaching its authority and attempting to impose its laws on the residents of another state. Legal experts are closely monitoring this case, with some comparing the state versus state conflict to historical battles before the Civil War between free states and slaveholding states. The outcome could set a major precedent, likely determining the effectiveness of shield laws and significantly impacting the future of abortion access in the United States, particularly the ability of individuals in states with restrictive laws to obtain abortion medication through telehealth from providers in other states. The central constitutional question that may ultimately be decided is whether one state must honor and enforce the civil judgments of another, even when those judgments are based on laws that are in direct opposition to its own public policy. As this landmark case progresses through the courts, it will undoubtedly continue to highlight the deep legal and cultural divisions over abortion in America today.